Yep, okay.
Alex, it's my question. Do other ideologies of punk music still exist in mainstream music? So, for start, in the first section of the piece, I'm going to be looking at what were punk's ideologies, and they focus around of it being of the people, challenging capitalist control of music and involving new sounds. And then I'm going to discuss why it was important during the time. So, during 1976 when it came about, going into early 80s, because it was fighting against the high unemployment, inflation and strikes of Callaghan and Thatcher's Britain. Then I move on to the introduction. I'm going to ask, where is punk today? Because obviously, as I just said, what's the same of our situation today as was back in the 70s and 80s? Obviously, we've got the banking crisis, government telling us to do things when it doesn't really make sense to us. And then, can the ideologies of punk help the population once again? So, where is our punk? What are we doing to challenge the government and the capitalist states? And I'll introduce a theoretical framework here as well. It will be based around Adorno and the Frankfurt School, Aufhauser, Hebditch, Dyer, Gelder, and some Roland Barthes as well. Moving on into this main body of it, I'm going to divide it into 3 to 4 sections. First one's going to be dealing with subculture, looking at how they're formed and how did punk escape the failures of those that came before it. For this I'm going to use Hebditch. He describes subcultures and he shows how they form. Basically, it's younger generations refusing to suffer without protest for what came before for their parents. They then develop a distinct style and practices. Then once the media discover it, therefore legitimising it with more panic, it expands and then loses its edge. And this happens through either the media using it as a consumer product or the media humanising the people within it and making them look ridiculous, really, like, say, goths, they just mock them instead of using them. So how did being a subculture help punk get its message across? And for that I'm going to be using Gelder, describing like, how was punk defined and what did it allow it to do because it was a subculture? How was it an ideological vehicle? Moving on from that, going into the culture industry. I'm going to be talking about with Dyer and Heavenly Bodies, film stars and society. It's about how the culture industry constructs a false world that people want to buy into because they think their life would be better with it. Dyer looks at 3 examples. I can't remember. I think one of them maybe will be Hepburn. Yeah, that's the right one. It's how they used to construct film stars in the 40s, 50s, and how that relates to now with Miley and Britney, and how easily people buy into this whole notion that if they follow this person, if they buy what they see in the video, their life will somehow be like theirs, even though it's their life in the first place isn't what they're shown. Then we on to how the governments and states use this culture industry to keep control of the people they rule. This is the idea from Aufhauser that governments and states can influence and control what goes out to the majority. So how do governments keep people down? How do they continue to churn out a bottom rung that will do their dirty work so that the rich can get richer? This can be done through various means. 2 of the main ones that I'll be looking at is through wages for bottom rung people. Say you're doing a minimum wage job, you do it because you get paid, because you need the money to buy the crap that they're already selling you through the music videos. And the other way is schools. I thought this was quite a sinister way that with the schools, they teach, you go to school, they teach you to get a job, go uni, get a job, pay taxes, then you die. But then also within the schools, it gives an opportunity for the governments and the states, the media industry, to show what they want you to become, what they want you think you can become, but you inevitably won't. So they'll show kids Miley Cyrus, they'll show them Britney Spears, and they'll say, look what you can become if you try really hard. And really it's not, it's only if you've got the right face, you've got the right sound and whatnot. So that's how they just keep it churning out, same people over and over again to buy into what they've already seen, already heard. Then I'll go into the Dialectic of Enlightenment by Adorno and Frankfurt School. This is a very pessimistic view of what can be done against a false system which through the culture industry constantly creates a false consciousness about the world around us based on myths and distortions deliberately spread in order to benefit the ruling class. That leads on from what I was just talking about, how they keep people down, but then what can we do against it? So through that I'll come bring it back to punk again, and how did punk fight against this? And what are we doing about it today? Is the mainstream what do we have fighting today? Is the mainstream facilitating it? Or facilitating the myths that we're led to believe? So where is punk? Which leads to me saying that punk lives on the outside and it's in the periphery. So how is the majority of people understanding what's really going on if they're not listening to where the truth is? They're just being fed all the lies. Out there, I found a great quote from Roland Barthes that it's always interrogate the falsely obvious, just to make to make explicit what is already implicit. Then I'll wrap it up by saying, where has punk gone? Punk can no longer be what it was due to age disparity. Age disparity means that kids won't like what their parents like. A lot of us wouldn't like, when I was young, I wouldn't like, my mum listened to that Simply Red and that, couldn't stand it. So you're always going to hate what your parents like. So if the parents of, the people that were our age in the 70s, they're parents now, so the kids aren't going to like what their mum and dad are listening to. And because of this, we've got to find where our punk is, where our ideologies are lying to fight against the capitalist systems. Then I'm going to show a brief run through of where of the direction the ideology went through. So that it went from punk and it moved to rap in the 80s, especially in America.
We've got 2.5 minutes. 2.5 minutes.
Rap with the Black Power, that sort of thing. Then it went to grunge with quite depressive lyrics, but they were talking about things that you wouldn't hear on the radio. New metal kind of came around with a fuck you attitude and kind of do what you want, don't care about what happens. So where is it now? I think that I'm going to talk about how comedy is playing a viral role at the moment, especially we've all seen the Russell Brand Paxman interview. So is it significant that punk has left music and moved into other mediums? Is music too contrived? Has it become too much mainstream controlled? Are there enough people listening to what's being said on the periphery? And does it take someone like Russell Brand, who has experience of being within that industry, to come out, to step away from it, and to show its flaws and where we can break it down? That is...
Great, thank you very much. Okay, has anybody got any questions? Okay, I've got a couple of things. I was really hoping to see something about Dadaism. Because that was, if you're looking at perhaps the evolution of the punk ideology, it started with Dadaism. Because you can apply the Dadaist manifesto to punk music, and then from punk music to now. So I think there may be a good starting point, just from a theoretical perspective, that needs to be in there somewhere near the beginning, I think. Also, false consciousness is Friedrich Engels, out of Marx and Engels. Sorry? You mentioned about the notion of false consciousness, which is what... Yeah, you're absolutely right. So just make sure that that gets attributed to him.
I got the, I don't know, from the notes of our meeting.
Yeah.
I think,
No, that's fine. It's just interesting to see how those two notions kind of got divvied up between Marx and Engels, because Marx was very much looking at the kind of mechanical elements of it. I think Engels was perhaps looking at perhaps a more psychoanalytical perspective, the notion of the false consciousness. Also, with Althusser, make sure you get in there ISA and RSAs, the ideological state apparatus and the repressive state apparatus. And something that's come up that was been published by The Guardian this week have been letters that have been exchanged between Nadia Tolonikova and Slavoj Žižek. So you've got the Pussy Riot, she's been moved to some place in Siberia now, but she's kind of lost in the Russian prison system, and she's been sending letters to the cultural theorist Slavoj Žižek. And The Guardian published them this week, and it's absolutely fascinating to see exactly how you are constructing what you're doing and how that fits. So you've got the relevance of punk music. I mean, don't forget what you're looking at here is a very much kind of industrialised Western perspective, whereas Russia still need this, you know.
I've been keeping up on the Pussy Riot thing, but it's kind of, I didn't feel like it fitted in with the mainstream, because they seem to only be getting punk music now. They're kind of so far behind. The whole notion of freedom of speech is alien to them. I mean, I watched a documentary, and the people that were protesting against the protest were so just appalled by what they were hearing. Yeah. They couldn't bear to hear the name, you know, of Putin thrown about as if it was nothing. Yeah. They're just very, I don't know, institutionalized about the whole notion of what they've grown up with.
And I think also the orthodoxy of the religion there as well. I think that at some point that's going to... I just think it's worth perhaps having a look at the letters just to see what the exchange is, and to see, you know, how, yeah, absolutely, the cultural theorists are being utilised and applied to a very relevant scenario that has cultural theory on one side and punk on the other. So I just think it's worth having a look at. Great stuff. Thanks very much.